Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Arsaholics podcast on bloody hell, what day is it? Honestly, last night was just such a blitz. I've got no concept of what day of the week is. I think it's Thursday. Um,
It is.
it's the day after Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, where we won 4-2. I've got Myz with me, who both of us were just fortunate enough, lucky enough. I mean, I don't know, words can't describe it, I suppose, to be there at the game. Myz, how you doing? How you feeling after yesterday?
Yeah, man. Still got a massive smile on my face. Yeah, I've been buzzing the whole day, really. It's one of those wins when obviously it helps that you're there and away games for those people who are lucky enough to get to go to away games, it's a different kind of experience and vibe and feel to home games. Not saying it's necessarily better or worse, but when you kind of when you win a game, when you win in a match like yesterday's, where it's obviously against another big team, which we haven't done very often, especially away from home, and it being a derby as well, and a game where we probably didn't expect very much from as well, and the team really surprised us. So yeah, basically absolutely ecstatic, and like I said, been very, very happy all day rewatching the highlights and the goals and our video clips that we took, the fans singing and everything. So yeah, delighted.
If you're new to the Arsaholics podcast, one of the things that we like to do is we do try and sort of bring you some insights on the match day experience. Obviously, that gets a bit samey with regards to going to home games. You can only do that so often, but at the same time, when it's away games, it's a bit more interesting. It's a little bit more different. So today at Chelsea, I think it's the first time that we've been to Chelsea away since we've started this podcast. It's the first time that I've been to Chelsea away since I was a child, literally my first ever Arsenal game. And Myz, it's a very different experience. Obviously, you unfortunately couldn't make Crystal Palace away recently, which is the last game any of the Arsaholics, last away game any of the Arsaholics went to. But Crystal Palace away and Chelsea away are very, very different experiences with regards to kind of the stadium and the away fan experience. Firstly, the Crystal Palace away end is restricted viewing. It's absolutely kind of archaic in that way, just really, really old school. But Chelsea, it's quite nice, as an away fan going into Chelsea, wasn't it, Wise? Because it's like there's this massive, massive, long sort of police guarded tunnel or steward guarded kind of tunnel that they make as you go in, which is very different to Palace a few weeks ago, and then you sort of, because we got in pretty early, didn't we, Myz? We sort of decided to have some beers there early. It was quite a nice experience, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like you said, we got in very early. Actually, I think we I think when we walked in, I think what I said to you was, "Is there definitely a match happening tonight?" Because there was like hardly anyone there, and normally away games, the concourse is absolutely bouncing. But I guess we got in like over an hour early. I mean, obviously, like you say, I wasn't at Palace. I've been to Palace away before. I can imagine when you guys went. I guess the results matters, from both games, it makes a difference to how you perceive the experience and the game afterwards. But like in terms of an away day, I've done Stamford Bridge I think once before. It was a 0-0 draw, and the first time I've sat in the upper tier. And like you say, it was actually it was nice. We had a really good view, really good clear view of the pitch, and I think the main thing for me, and I'm sure we'll come on to this, is basically just the away fans, the fans, upper tier, lower tier, everyone. The backing that the team gets from this set of away fans is, I don't know. Obviously, I don't sit with any other away fans right across Premier League teams. I don't know if this is kind of like a normal thing where other clubs' away fans and away support are this vocal and are this kind of passionate, and win, lose or draw, they keep singing. But from an Arsenal away fans perspective, that's absolutely what we did yesterday, and it's what you hear on TV when you watch us play away. And that's the main. That's kind of like the main thing for me, really, just how good the away support is and has been, especially this season.
I'd go as far to say, Myz, I think yesterday at Chelsea, and I know that the way the game panned out did have something to do with it, but it's certainly, I feel, one of the, if not the best kind of atmospheres that I've been in within a group of Arsenal fans. Maybe the only things that I can think of that compare at times during the FA Cup finals, perhaps, but there's something about yesterday, and I think it surprised me massively. I don't know if it surprised you, but it surprised me from the perspective that, we've just lost 3 games on the bounce. And at the beginning of that 3-game period, there was this huge air of belief and optimism and togetherness about the Arsenal fan base, who all believed that we had something as match-going fans, we had something to do with this success, because it feels like there was this bond between the team, the players, the manager, the fans. And then this kind of 3 losses kind of happen at this terrible time of the season for it to happen. 3 teams that, with the greatest respect to those teams, and yes, Palace away is hard, but with the greatest respect to those 3 teams, you don't expect to lose all 3 of those games. No way. And then, and I think that you'd be forgiven as a fan base, would be forgiven at least to, go into this Chelsea game, perhaps not bouncing and not as excited, but it really felt from the word go, the fans were right behind the team. The Mikel Arteta chants were in the concourse before the start of the game. This is after 3 defeats on the bounce. Did that surprise you, mate?
I don't think it did really surprise me. I turned up yesterday not really expecting a result from the team. I thought Chelsea would be a lot better than what they were. And to be honest, I think I predicted would lose. But in terms of the reception that the players would get, and in terms of the support, no, I think this season, what you've probably seen, and we've said it a number of times on this podcast and between ourselves, right? The match going experience, going to home games, supporting the team, there's obviously this kind of bond. Maybe not the right word, but there's obviously something that's grown from Arteta taking over, and the way he's kind of remolded the team, and the players that he's brought in are very, very likable. And obviously you've got the youngsters coming through, and the academy products that are coming through and kind of smashing it for the first team now. And everything about it is very, very likable, and a young manager, and people have just got on board with that, I think. And I think people have probably, when I say people, match going fans especially, have got on board with the process, and they've probably accepted. I think we've accepted that there's going to be blips and humps in the road along the way, and there's probably going to be times where this young team does maybe fall over, and it's all about how they've picked themselves up. And I think off the back of that, you kind of, if you take Ramsdale as an example, even if he drops a clanger, he's very much loved already by the fan base. He's built this rapport and relationship with the fans, and he's very interactive with the fans, and that's you see that at the matches, you see that on the TV. It's very, very apparent and very obvious, and he's English, and that probably helps as well. So I think all of these things have probably contributed to a somewhat better atmosphere. But I think to be fair, the Arsenal away support has always been really good. We've been going for a number of years. We don't go to a huge number of away games. We go when we can. But I think whenever we've gone, and I'm thinking back, 10 years or so, but whenever we've gone, or I've gone for sure, I think the away support has generally been good. It's always been good. Even at the kind of latter stages of Wenger, and there was a split fan base then, and even during the Emery era, I think just in general, I think the fans go, they like to enjoy themselves. They want to, they want to be entertained. We want to win the game, but even if we don't win, I think the fans do their absolute best to support the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And yesterday was a game that, like you say, I think most fans probably realistically didn't think we were going to win. I think the only reason that some may have thought that was if we cast our memories back over this, over last season, and in particular, when we played Chelsea home and away last season, we weren't necessarily going through great patches, but we managed to get results last season. And away at Chelsea last season, we changed up our formation. We went 3 at the back last season, which was the first time we went 3 at the back for a while at that point. We grinded out a 1-0. It was a scuffed goal by Emile Smith-Rowe that game. But I recall fairly well that game that we were still against the ropes for a lot of it. There were a lot of fairly straightforward chances I think Chelsea missed, and we rode our luck. And Yeah, we had some good performance, but it was very much a set up defensively and sort of smash and grab. It sort of looked like that's what Arteta went for yesterday, right? The lineup suggested things that we perhaps hadn't seen previously, or at least for a while. It looked on the face of it that he was going with either a straight back four with Ben White at right back and Holding and Gabriel in the middle, or something which could potentially resemble a back three at times with those three centre backs and potentially with Saka coming in as a wing back or whatever. And Elneny coming into the team, Elneny making his random sort of start of the season that he's the start, which he sort of seems to have done over the last couple of years. He'll randomly start a game, sort of out of nowhere, put in a blinder, like he did, against Man United last season away, I believe. And so it was a bit of a surprising lineup, but it was clearly a lineup which it felt that Arteta was going for something quite practical, something perhaps a little bit more defensive, and it was really interesting how the players seemed to really sort of, I guess, respond to it well and execute it with a good amount of energy, if not sort of some nerves at the start. Did it? What did you make of the opening sort of before the first goal, those kind of opening exchanges? Like, did you think that the formation sort of worked? Did you think that the tactics were okay?
So I mean, the thing is that the first goal came pretty early on, didn't it? Was it?
Yeah, it's 13 minutes.
13 minutes. So I guess we only had like 13 minutes prior to the first goal to assess it, right? I felt like it was a fairly even start. If anything, I thought we looked kind of, I'm not sure about the setup. Like, I was pretty happy with the changes he made. And I think it's nice. It's nice that he's trying different things, even if in the last few games prior to the Chelsea game, it didn't necessarily work. And he's adapting to the opposition, and probably more so the kind of lack of options that we've got in certain positions because of injuries. So I think I was overall pretty happy with how we set up. And I think I said, I messaged you guys earlier in the day, in the morning, saying I think Elneny might come in for this game, and obviously he did. And I think it in hindsight it made complete sense, and obviously it worked. But again, a change that I was pretty happy with. I mean, look, in terms of how the game started, it was just a bit of a mental start, really. Like I'm trying to remember back to the first sort of 10 minutes or so before that goal, but my memory is we seemed to be a little bit sloppy. We lost the ball a few times, but trying to play the right way and trying to pass kind of through Chelsea. And I remember the ball being down our end quite a bit, where we were defending. But then after the goal went in, the first goal, then like that first half was just like, what the hell is going on? Pretty much. Exactly. And it's quite, I think it's quite hard to do any sort of like tactical analysis on it, but we can try.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's not necessarily do it, because to be honest, if we were to try and dissect the game in that way, like 4-2, it was just a mental game. We'd be here for days, and we probably wouldn't come up with anything insightful, because it really was that kind of manic sort of game. Yeah. So I mean, if we've just focused on some of those individual performances, then right. So Ben White at right back, and how that kind of interacted with Holding coming in at centre back. What did you make, so generally, of the back four's performance?
Ben White at right back was all right. Like, I feel like it was a game where he's done a job, and he's probably put in like a 6 out of 10. I guess you have to factor in it's not his natural position, although he has played there before, right? Not for us, but I think for Brighton
and England. Yeah.
Oh, is he for England? Is it really? Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. I didn't know that.
I think the last game for England that he played was right back.
Oh, no way. Never knew that. Okay. But I feel like, I don't know if it's because he was maybe exposed a little bit, or left exposed, or what it was. I'm not sure. I do feel like he struggled at times. Like, obviously for the Chelsea second goal, I think it was the second goal, he gets robbed by Mount, and you could debate whether that's a foul or not. Still not really clear if that was a foul. I feel like it might have, it could have been given either way, and obviously we didn't get it. But I feel like there were a couple of occasions where he just wasn't really that comfortable on the right, as say like a Tomiyasu might have been. And I'm not really sure what the reason for that is, because obviously he's pretty comfortable carrying the ball. He's a good passer of the ball. He's got good distribution and range. Maybe, yeah, I'm not really sure. Overall, though, defensively, it was an okay defensive performance. Obviously, look, we conceded 2 goals, right? But I do feel like we were, what's the word I'm looking for? We were it was just a little bit dodgy at times. Like even for our second goal, when like I don't know if you remember what happened before Xhaka like decides to like do a Modric and
Yeah.
But before that, that kind of interchange of not interchange, but that like little passage of play for like 30 seconds was like we were trying to give Chelsea the ball in our own box. Like I don't know what we were doing. And there were a few hairy moments. I think hairy moments is probably the right word to describe it, and I'm not sure, again, like, is that because they were a bit nervous? Is that because we've lost the last few games? Is that because, we don't have a full strength back four? Not really sure what the reason was, but, I think going into the second half, defensively, we improved a lot. Like, I think I was looking at the stats earlier, like we had something like 25 plus clearances or something like that, and we only had 30% of the ball. So obviously we were under the cosh quite a bit. I think once we scored the third goal, Chelsea then came out a little bit, obviously trying to equalize. And you've got players like Rob Holding doing what he does very, very well. In terms of you bring him in, and he generally, he does have the tendency to drop mistakes here and there, but generally he's quite dependable, especially when it's aerial onslaught from teams. And I think the other thing is probably worth mentioning. Look, a lot of talk about Lukaku for Chelsea this season. How he's essentially been a bit of a flop, and he got subbed off 50, 60 minutes. I don't know what it was, but basically can't really think of anything he did the whole game.
I remember there was one opportunity that he had where he it was almost like a half chance, but a striker of his reputation is still dangerous from those positions normally, and it was just he just kind of completely tame shot that missed the far post. I agree. Yeah, I mean, was where you're going with this, that you felt that we dealt
kind
with
of nullified him a little bit. Yeah, I think we did, and I feel like I was listening to whoever it was on Sky Sports, Paul Merson and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. Absolutely ripped into him. Absolutely ripped into him. And look, to be completely honest, I wasn't watching Lukaku that closely, but I think that's the kind of that's the general feeling that a lot of Chelsea fans and people watching Chelsea have got about Lukaku. Right, he's just not really trying as hard as he can. And I think you get that impression from Tuchel as well. When Tuchel gets asked about him, he just sort of, I don't think he's particularly happy with his performances as well. So, maybe it was one of those games where, Lukaku's not really, he's already sort of looking forward to the summer and what he's going to be doing, and maybe he just wasn't fully focused on this game, which kind of helped us. But I think defensively we're okay, but there were some hairy moments for sure.
It is interesting that I don't want to take anything away from our victory, but I did feel that there was a bit of an air of arrogance of Chelsea yesterday, in the sense that I feel that they never really got out of second to third gear, really 2.5 gears basically. And it felt to me like there was this element where they were sort of strutting around the pitch a little bit, thinking, well, we're an excellent team. Like, I'm sure we'll score. And in fairness to them, in the first half, every time we scored, they just went back and scored an equalizer. So maybe they felt that they didn't have to try that hard. It was very confusing. And I feel like, in a way, Lukaku sort of epitomed the approach of Chelsea. Maybe they thought they could just beat us with the quality that they had on the pitch. But I feel like it was interesting because, and we'll move on from our defenders in a second, but just going back on to Holding, it felt like we sort of tried to defend in numbers a lot of the time. So a lot of those hairy moments, I think we overcame, because actually we just ended up having lots of defenders in the box and lots of, and Xhaka or whoever it is helping out. And I think we also saw what Holding is good at and what he's not in that game. And I think that Holding came into his own when we were up 3-2, and it was around absorbing the pressure and just kind of, and before that, it felt like he probably wasn't that comfortable. And I don't know if that affected Ben White a little bit. And Ben White was a bit unsure of how he had to play, because did he have to cover Holding? But, whatever. I mean, you could argue that Chelsea's second goal was, it was a really good goal, but good finish by Aspie. But the first goal, the deflection, anyway, look, moving on from our defense, because, again, there's a fair amount to get through today. Let's talk about Mohamed Elneny. This guy, for me, Myz, is, for whatever his limitations are as a footballer, I can't think of a more professional player than in memory for Arsenal. Because this guy, he was signed from Basel for not too much money. I believe he was sort of in his early 20s at that time. And he's at some points in his career at Arsenal, he's kind of established himself in the team for little runs, but largely he's been a squad player. And I've never seen him not smile. I've never seen him go and complain in the press. I've never seen him kick up a fuss. He's only ever looked like a positive influence. Even times where he's not even in the squad, you never hear anything. And when he's asked to start a game, sometimes he's asked to start a game with barely any minutes, even as a sub. I've never seen him not give 120%. And against Chelsea yesterday, I mean, he was fantastic. It was almost shades of the Mertesacker performance of that FA Cup final against Chelsea, where he sort of came out of nowhere and put in a blind. I mean, Elneny, again, I'm pretty sure like he hasn't started a game for a number of months. He's barely had any football. What did you think of his performance?
Yeah, I mean, is he out of contract at the?
I think he is, mate. I think, you know, he's 29 years old and he's out of contract in the summer, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, like, I mean, yeah, I pretty much concur with everything you said. Like, have to agree with all of that. Definitely, he's been completely professional. It's a fair point. Never really thought about it, but yeah, he never does kick up a fuss when he's not in the team, and yeah, and he seems to be quite likable when you watch some of the training videos and stuff on that Arsenal put out. But yeah, he had a really, him and Xhaka, like, I don't think anyone's really mentioned Xhaka either, but both of them central midfield, like, we absolutely dominated central midfield. You know, I think with the great thing about Elneny is he's probably a coach's dream, like he's probably a manager's dream, because you pretty much give him a set of instructions to follow and what to do and what positions to sort of play in and areas to occupy and who to mark and etc. You know, you give him those instructions and he will just follow it to a T. Like, he's just that sort of player, and that's pretty much what he did. And yeah, it was they were both really dominant. You know, winning battles, winning duels. Seemed fairly kind of comfortable on the ball. Like, you know, we kind of associate Elneny as a bit of a sideways passer, and you know, I feel like the whole team gelled quite well. There were occasions where our passing kind of, like, we were trying to play pretty quickly, and I even think for the Chelsea second goal is when we had the ball and we lost it. Maybe I can't remember. Yeah. But everyone seemed to sort of be in sync when it came to the passing, and Elneny was a big part of that. And yeah, man, like, I think everything you said is completely accurate. You know, I don't know if he was man of the match or not. Maybe it was Nketiah, but he was definitely, you know, fair shout for him to have been man of the match. He was very, very good. Very, very good.
And about his midfield partner, because, you know, since Partey's injury, you know, we saw what happened against Brighton, where we decided to put Xhaka at left back and start Sambi in the middle, you know, on the park almost on his own or whatever. You know, I think moving Xhaka back in the middle, in my opinion, is spot on the right thing to do. Is it actually a one step further? Would you argue that at this point in time, given Partey's injury and the depth of the squad, is Xhaka arguably our most important player right now? Is he the one that if he gets injured, we have the biggest problem?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think, because obviously if it means Lokonga and Elneny in central midfield, that is not an ideal central midfield partnership that you want to go into any game with, really, at the moment.
Yeah, as much as we love Elneny, like, at the end of the day, like, we know his limitations.
Yeah, and I think Lokonga's still pretty raw, and it's not the kind, you know, this stage of the season, lot to play for. It's not really the kind of situation you want to have that that midfield pairing. So yeah, probably. I mean, look, there's a couple of players and a couple of areas you could look at and say, if we lose Gabriel from central defence, that's pretty big. But yeah, okay, we've got cover in Rob Holding. If we lost Saka, you could maybe say he's massive. Erdegaard's massive. So there's a few players that, I mean, again, you could potentially go without Saka for a couple of games, right? You have got wide options and attacking options. So I think you know, like, Xhaka, it's a funny one with Xhaka, isn't it? Because for all his kind of like moments of madness that happen once, twice, three times in a season, he's generally pretty solid. Like, he's generally you know, pretty reliable, and you know, he is a what you'd probably call a midfield general. like, I'm not saying he's kind of like Steven Gerrard level, because obviously he's not. I'm not saying that. But if you were to categorize kind of the type of player he is, he loves a battle, he loves a tackle. He has a great left foot. He does misplace a lot of passes, to be fair, but he can spray passes around. He has a great shot on him. And yeah, I guess it's probably more like his lack of pace at times that costs him when he has to recover, that kind of thing. And even defensively, defensively, aerially, he blocked. Even I think in the first half yesterday, he put in a really good block where I can't remember who had a shot, but it was definitely on target and he blocked it. So yeah. So it's a longer-winded way of answering your question, but yeah, probably is our most important player at the moment.
Well, it was a fairly complicated and nuanced question, to be fair. And I want to spend some time talking about the forwards, but I do want to ask you a question that one of our listeners, who's also an Arsaholic called Aaron, asked, which was, he wanted us to answer the question of whether Elneny's performance means that we go in essentially with Elneny starting in the centre of midfield for the rest of the season, and has Sambi lost his place to Elneny now?
So I don't know about the rest of the season. I would say for the United game, which is now tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Day after tomorrow. I would say you go with Elneny again. Yeah. And I think Xhaka and Elneny should dominate. I don't know who United are going to have in midfield, because aren't like Fred and McTominay currently injured, and I think Pogba got injured the other day. So it's probably going to be like Matic and not even sure. Bruno Fernandes and someone else. But I feel like Xhaka and Elneny could potentially, dominate whoever United do put in midfield. I think following that, or looking beyond United, I think it depends. Like if Elneny carries on putting in the sorts of performances that he put in yesterday, then I think it becomes a bit of a no-brainer. Like you go Xhaka or Elneny. I'm not sure Elneny will do that every single game. I'm not saying he'll have bad games, but I think he'll probably just have kind of like average games, and then it maybe comes down to, well, is it working in terms of, are we getting the right results? But I guess Lokonga, like I said, Lokonga's really raw, right? And I feel like he's maybe low on a little bit of confidence. He's kind of been brought in for games where we've lost, essentially. And he's been taken back out the team and we've won. So he must be pretty low on confidence in general. I feel like when I was watching him in the last couple of games, he just felt like he was a bit scared of making a mistake.
Yeah.
He's probably seen what's happened to Tavares as well, and he's got like slaughtered for his performance the other day or last week. So yeah, I think United, yeah, let's go with Elneny. That would be my preference. After that, I would say it probably depends on opposition, and it probably depends on how Elneny's playing, because this could be like a flash in the pan type of performance, or
yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
And we've seen that before. And I agree with the approach that you're suggesting we take against United, partly also because one of the things Elneny is always fantastic at doing is just running around with a lot of energy. He's just very energetic. And that's one thing that Man United have been doing really badly, right? Like they're getting criticized day in, day out because they're just not running enough. So, I feel like, perhaps it might be good for him to exploit that. Yeah. Look, in the interest of time, because I really want to talk to you about Eddie before I get up to Eddie, and I'm going to ask you to basically just take us through Eddie. I just want to flick through, the other sort of attacking players who played yesterday. So ESR, Odegaard, and Saka. I personally thought, as a unit, they were brilliant and did their jobs incredibly well. But even as individuals, I thought Saka went back to playing incredibly well yesterday. I think that there's been some games recently where I felt like it's just not worked out for him as well. I think Crystal Palace was the first game that I sort of thought, he's not, is it a dip in form? Is there something not right? Are the opposition figuring him out? I thought he had Alonso on absolute toast yesterday, to the point where I'm surprised it wasn't addressed by Chelsea earlier in the game. And ultimately, like I know that he didn't get the assist for the second goal, but a lot of it was because of the work that he was doing on that side. And he was going past, he was skinning him, he was putting balls in. I know we can't really have any issues with our striker yesterday, and we'll talk about it in a second, but there were many times where Saka put very, very dangerous balls in towards the back post. And if you've got a big striker, who it seems like we're trying to go for, the type of profile of striker that we're trying to go for, that could have been very dangerous. Maybe that's why Chelsea didn't really bother stopping him, because they thought that it wasn't a danger from that perspective. I don't know. And just sort of, I just want to touch on ESR as well, who's a guy who I said to you before the game, I was having some concerns about, because, felt like, he'd sort of gone out of favor. And when he was coming into the team recently, he wasn't the same player as before. I mean, damn, that guy had a good game yesterday. The goal was beautiful finesse, but there was also that little, do you remember that little, there was a little attempt that I think from where we were sitting, the shot went past the far post. When we were sitting, you couldn't really see the intricacy, but I've seen on the replay, the footwork was phenomenal. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
The first half? No.
Yeah, it was the first half, yeah. So anyway, the point is, it's nice to have that ESR back. But let me ask you, talk to me about Eddie. Talk to me about this guy who we have been so frustrated with. Yeah. And, there's been games he's come on and he has made a bit of a difference. There's been games that he's come on and you're begging for him to make an impression because Lack has not been doing well. You want him to score a goal. You want him to stake his place. It's not like happened necessarily. He started for the first time against Southampton. We have 23 shots on goal against Southampton. We score none. Doesn't do his, case any better.
Yeah.
Talk to me about him yesterday. Talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, look, if we talk about the goals individually, the first goal, basically when he comes into the team and Lacazette's on the bench, I know he had COVID last week. You basically look at what he does and what's he offering differently to what Lacazette would offer. Basically, the first goal, Lacazette gets nowhere near that in terms of, he might chase the ball down, the first ball that goes up to and Christensen picks up, but the pace that he shows to get to that, it's a bad back pass, but I didn't realize how fast he was, but it was rapid. Like, he completely beats Sarr, and the thing I was most impressed about that first goal was, obviously, like, when we were watching it, me and you probably thinking the same thing, where we're like watching, thinking, oh my god, he's gonna miss. Like, it's not, I don't know, it's not like Harry Kane going through on goal, right? No disrespect or anything, but like you say,
it's just not.
It's not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was obviously massive. I was surprised and massively impressed with the composure that he showed to score, but also, like, he was actually really smart forward play, because first he shows that pace to get to the ball and the desire to get to the ball, which is something that we've questioned a bit, right? Like, his desire to actually try as hard as he can, not knowing that with the likelihood that he's not going to be here next season, that he's not going to be an Arsenal player. He sniffs that kind of opportunity. He puts the burners on. He, gets to the ball first, and then the first touch is actually really smart, because he basically puts himself in between Sarr and the goal, or Sarr and the ball. Yeah. So Sarr can't do anything. He can't. He knows if he takes him out, it's a red card. So he just has to avoid him and avoid connecting with him or making any contact, and then. He has the composure. He looks up. He has the composure to kind of pick his spot, and puts it right in the corner. And it was a really, really impressive goal. And his first half performance, he looked, it was almost like a reborn kind of Eddie. We've always said about him, right? Because we've been talking about him for the last few years since he kind of broke through. But even before that, he's always been a goal scorer, obviously. He's always got goals at kind of like the youth levels and under 23s and England under 21s.
England under 21s top scorer,
yeah. And he's got a great goal record. And obviously, we when he kind of made the step up to senior team and he didn't really cut it and he didn't really do it, we were sort of like, maybe he's sort of found it. Maybe this is not his level. Like I was saying to you, I was saying to the guys, when we're talking about Eddie after he did that podcast interview, depending on where we finish this season, if we don't get Champions League, but we do get Europa League, I would say he's actually a very, very good player to have in your squad, because he's probably the perfect player to play all of your kind of first set of cup games, domestic cup games, and play the first, the Europa League group games, or the first 6 to 8 Europa League games, because he probably will get you goals at that level of opposition. And the question mark was always around, well, what about in the games in the Premier League when he gets his chance? And I always feel like it is a bit difficult and is a bit unfair when you only get 10, 20 minutes. It's quite hard. Like, I don't know. I feel like it can be quite hard to almost just like come into a game and have that impact. Maybe I am being a bit kind of going a bit easy on him. but yeah, like basically the point I'm trying to make is, Chelsea away, huge game. We've just lost 3 on the bounce, and he completely turned up. And yeah, that first half performance overall was very, very good. I think he had a couple of other chances, one that he kind of fluffed, and then one that he tried to bend in, and I think it just missed the far post. Obviously, we didn't get to see any replays in the ground of those incidents, but he overall looked pretty dangerous. And obviously the second goal was an interesting one, because I kind of feel like he cocked it up a little bit, to be honest. Like, he got very, very lucky twice with like the ricochets basically off, I think it was Kante and Sarr. And obviously the ball, it's a weird one, because he turns really well, then he sort of loses the ball, and then the ball drops, and it's on his left foot, and I if you watch it back, if you watch it back and you've never watched it before, it's almost like it's there to be hit on his left. He doesn't hit it, and then it kind of like bobbles and ricochets again, and then the shot that he actually does take, it's like very, very instinctive. It's like, it's not at a point where you'd expect him to shoot, if that makes sense. So it completely catches what's the Chelsea's keeper's name?
Mendy.
It completely catches him off guard.
Yeah.
It's really, again, really, really good forward play in terms of the finish and the instinctiveness of the finish. But yeah, man, like when you talk about Eddie, right? Like, obviously I've just sort of said, I've kind of described the goals really rather than saying anything. I was very, very impressed with his performance yesterday, and I thought he did really, really well. Probably a little bit unlucky to come off on a hat trick, but team comes first and the result comes first. But again, we could talk about it for ages, right? I was interested to get your thoughts on, does that change your kind of like perception and thoughts around what we do with Eddie next season? And I guess there's always the caveat of, it depends what competitions we're in next season.
So it doesn't yet change my mind, mate, because I think at the end of the day, we also need to make sure we're not getting carried away here, because, we had a great result. It was really good. Chelsea have been conceding a lot of goals every now and again, like recently. I think they conceded 4 at home to Brentford relatively recently, right? Now, you haven't got, I doubt people are there, Brentford fans are there thinking that they've got a team that's, well beaters or whatever. Like, I guess where I'm going with this is, he had a magnificent game. He's in it, it's not that he's had that much opportunity. Like, we've been debating this for a while. But now I think Arteta will definitely start him next game. I think he,
has to. Right?
There's probably a case for just continuously starting him, unless he really, really plays like really poorly. And then we'll see then. If he continuously plays well, if he carries on scoring goals, because if we're going to do anything half decent, if we're going to finish in the top 4, for example, he's going to need to kind of score goals. And even if we're to finish kind of 5th or 6th, he's probably still going to need to score goals. So I think let's evaluate it after that, I'd say. I mean, let's bring on to that, mate, because, we'd lost 3 on the bounce. And although we didn't record after Southampton, I think it's fair to say that we were all incredibly downbeat about our chances of getting in the top 4 after these 3 losses in a row. And, you can't lose 3 games in a row at this point of the season and it not affects whatever you are trying to achieve. It doesn't matter where you are in the league. But we didn't expect to beat Chelsea away. And on paper, Chelsea away is the hardest game that we've had in this kind of, that we were going to have in this run-in. And we have got some tricky games. Tottenham away is obviously tricky for all kinds of reasons. West Ham away is tricky for all kinds of reasons. But on paper, away at the European champions is the hardest game. And we've won. And we are level on points with Tottenham. We've got played the same games. So it's all kind of, they're ahead of us on goal difference. What do you think? How do you feel now about our prospects of finishing in the top 4?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, right before the game yesterday, I pretty much had written it off. Like, it was kind of like giving us a 5 or 10% chance, just purely because Tottenham might capitulate worse than we might. So yeah, I didn't expect the result yesterday, and I think it's such a tough one, right? Because you don't want to get carried away, you don't want to get excited, but it's hard not to, because like you said, that on paper was our toughest game. We've got potentially, I don't know what the situation with Tomiyasu is. It sounds like he's almost like he's back in training, so hopefully he's back soon. Partey, I think they're trying to get back before the end of the season. You've now got Eddie Nketiah, who's just got a couple of goals, and hopefully that is something that could potentially be massive for us for the rest of the season. So there's a couple of things that have just like literally in the space of the game yesterday or in the last couple of days that have a massive positives to kind of focus on when it comes to our running. I still feel like it's so hard because you look at the fixtures, right, and you basically cannot predict. Like you just can't predict. Mm-hmm. Game by game, like we do it, right? We do it at the end of our podcast, and generally we're I don't know how close we get, but probably 50% right, 50% wrong, pretty much, because like it's just so unpredictable. No one would have said we'd lose those 3 games. Like how have we come out of those 3 games with 0 points, and then like I think you tweeted it yesterday, right? And then gone and beaten the European champions in their own like backyard. So, I feel like we have an absolutely fantastic chance, and I'm a lot more positive than what I was 24 hours ago, or not 24 hours ago, but before the game yesterday. Obviously, I'm very, very interested to see what happens on Saturday against United, because if we beat United, and I know it's a massive if and everything, but if we beat United, like we're 3 points clear of them now with the game in hand, so that becomes 6 points, and they'll only have 4 games left.
Yeah.
So you're I mean, United, if United lose, if you put it like this, United lose again, and we've got a 6-point buffer on them, and they've only got 4 games left to catch that up. Like that is a tough ask. That is a very tough ask. No matter what fixtures we've got, they're bang out of form at the moment, and like half of their players are pretty much on holiday. I think Ralph's on holiday. Like, so that in itself, in terms of a result and the 3 points, would be massive. Obviously, we need the 3 points, but that almost like it doesn't, but it almost eliminates United from the equation, right? And then it becomes almost like a straight shoot off between us and Tottenham. And then the pressure, and also because we play first, I mean, if we're just looking at this weekend's games, then because we're playing first, then the pressure goes to Tottenham again. I think they're away at Brentford. And Brentford are flying at the moment. I think they're like 2nd or 3rd in the form table. That's not an easy game for them. So, like I'm kind of quietly confident, or even though we're talking about it openly, I'm quietly confident that it's definitely back on, and it's obviously in our hands because we go to Spurs. But if there's a very good chance that it's going to come down to that. Like that Spurs game is going to be the thing, and I mean, who knows? Like, how do you just don't know? Like, you just don't know, right? Like with a game like that, North London derby, and Kane always scores against us, but then again, we have, like it's just who knows. So I'm kind of focused on the United game, and I'm very much looking forward to hopefully like beating them. It'll be huge. It'll be huge.
Yeah, let's get into the United game properly in a second. I think one thing I wanted to add to your thing is something that we discussed on this podcast quite often in the last few weeks, which is around narratives, and it's around what clubs have to play for, which is what makes the remaining fixtures so difficult to analyze. Because you could probably say, on the face of it, going away to Chelsea is extremely hard. Is going away to Chelsea as hard when they've just been knocked out of the Champions League? They know they can't finish above, 2nd or whatever. They know that, 3rd is probably the max they can get. All those things factor into, how you're going to play a team. And so when you look at the rest of the, fixtures, when you look at stuff like on the face of it, Spurs have got Burnley at home, 2nd last game of the season or whatever. But what if that's the game that could keep Burnley up? Right? And all those little things, when we play West Ham, how is it that when we play West Ham in correlation to their kind of Europa games and, all that kind of stuff? So it makes it really, really hard. And that will bring me on nicely, I think, to the United game, right? So there's all this kind of crazy stuff going on at United right now, right? They've just announced today that Ten Hag will take over as manager in the summer. They've just announced that. That comes a few days after their last game, which they played, and who did they play? They lost to Liverpool. They understandably lost to Liverpool. And Ten Hag said words to the effect after that game of, and continuing a trend, sorry, not Ten Hag, Rangnick said, and continuing a trend of what Rangnick has said in recent weeks, he's basically sort of increased the number of players that he's sort of indicating might leave and they might sign. And he sort of said words to the effect of, in the summer, we might sign 6, 7, 10 players. And I think the thing that he keeps on set, what I'm hearing every week is he's basically saying, well, these players are crap. Like, and we're doing a complete overhaul in the summer. Like, I don't. If you're saying you're going to sign 10 players, that basically means you're going to sell a lot of players. Yeah. And maybe there are some players in that squad who are going, do you know what? I want to be part of this revolution. So I'm going to play so hard to make sure I'm not one of those players that go. But to be honest, like, I feel the way that he's kind of been communicating and the messaging and what I see from Man United on the pitch, it's almost like you've got a bunch of players who are just really demotivated and just feel like, they're just, maybe that they feel like they're unloved by the new era, or that might be incoming. I don't know what it is. But there's certainly a narrative there. What might not be helpful is now they've named their new manager. Is there going to be players going, right, he's watching now, I better, make a good impression? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, on that last point, I don't know, like, it's, these days, I say these days, like I'm really old, but, like these days, the news about Ten Hag broke weeks ago, right? And Fabrizio was tweeting about it. So you would think that the players probably knew, even if it's like unofficially. And you can't, it's almost like if you're going from the Liverpool game that they just played to playing us, and you're sort of saying, will there be an uplift in performance because of that manager confirmation or announcement? But Liverpool for them is like, it's like Spurs for us, it's like huge. And there were a couple of like Mancunians playing in that game, like Rashford, Lingard, and they were two of the worst players on the pitch who just showed, just as little as pretty much all the other United players. So I don't really buy that. I'm not really sure that comes into it as such. I think I don't know. There's always this thing about United where, like, obviously we lost them earlier in the season, right? And that was like a really frustrating loss. And also we lost like to a Ronaldo penalty. And it's kind of like, there's always this thing about United where even where they're potentially not, they've not been particularly great over the last few seasons, neither have we, arguably. But it feels like every time we play them, like, we should beat them, we should get result. We always seem to disappoint for whatever reason, like something happens in the match or whatever. And like, I guess I don't know if Ronaldo is going to be back or not, but just as kind of, if you're one of the other players in that United team, you're basically, looking at Ronaldo every game to like bail, and he is bailing them out. And then they find out he's obviously not starting against Liverpool. And I think it's probably mentality is probably quite like defeatist, I could imagine, for the rest of those players. Could be like they're probably thinking like, well, like Liverpool are ridiculously good, and we don't have Ronaldo. Like, how the hell are we going to win this game? And that kind of showed in the effort they put in and the performance they put in. If Ronaldo's back, that is, obviously he's a quality player, world-class player, can win a game on his own. But the boost that might give to the other players that are going to be playing, the other United players, that is a little bit of a concern. And we just don't, like, I guess we don't know, right, what's happening with Ronaldo. So, that's a bit of a concern. But like, I think if we, like, our performances, even in the games that the Palace performance was pretty bad. I didn't really catch much of the Brighton game, if I'm being honest. I know that wasn't great. The performance against Southampton wasn't all that bad. Like, we dominated, we had lots of shots, and obviously the Chelsea game just now. I feel like if we can kind of continue a bit of a trend with a good performance on Saturday, I see no reason why we can't beat them. But I think we always say this when we're like about to play United. It's like there's no reason why we can't beat them. We're probably a better team than them.
We are,
it's not like they're in particularly good form, but this is the thing I said to you guys a few weeks ago when we were talking about the top 4 race. It's like they've got match winners, like they've got Sancho could just turn up. He hasn't had a fantastic season, but he could just turn up and he could win the game. Ronaldo could win the game. Rashford could, potentially win the game, or and there's other players like that. Cavani's not fit, but they've got these match winners in their squad. So that's kind of like my concern. I don't know. How are you feeling?
Well, I guess, do you know what? I might actually just kick off with my prediction on this, right? And then explain why.
Okay.
Like, I think we'll win. And I think we'll win. There's two main reasons why I think we'll win. One, I think if you look across our results this season, I'm sure someone can correct me on this, but from memory, it feels like we're quite a form team in terms of we very rarely win a game randomly and then go back to losing or go back to drawing. It feels like when we win a game, we generally have put a run together because, you know, maybe it's because the guys are pretty young and I don't know, there's just a lot of that confidence, that buoyancy, that, you know, that feeling. There's going to be a lot of adrenaline that came off the back, you know, of the Chelsea game. And I know there's always the chance that, you know, there's a come down for that. But I feel that the games are so close that actually in some ways that probably serves us quite well, because that adrenaline may just genuinely keep running, like that kind of, you know, just the momentum, etc. And I think the other reason I think we'll win is I think that United as players right now, partly because of the confidence thing, but it feels like whenever I've watched them away from home, they've sort of they've become, not going to say overwhelmed, but it feels like if the opposition crowd are making a real good atmosphere and really getting behind their own, you know, their home team, United are that extra step slow, that extra step not really bothered. And I really feel that Emirates are going to be rocking. I feel that Emirates are going to be rocking on Saturday.
Will be.
After this game, I think it's going to be absolutely electric. And I really don't think Man United will like that. I agree with you about match winners, and I agree with you that if Ronaldo plays, I think it adds a, you know, it is a concern. If he doesn't play, I think Man United have got problems. But you know, at the same time, like I feel like if Saka, for example, plays like he did against Chelsea, it doesn't matter who Man United play at left back. It won't matter who they play at left back. And if ESR is going to continue the kind of form that he was the other day, you know, he's going to cause some problems. I don't know if we'll play Martinelli. I don't know what it's going to be. And Eddie, if he keeps on, Man United aren't good defensively. They're absolutely terrible. And so, you know, I've been fairly kind of pessimistic, I think, at times in predictions. And I know a lot of people are saying Man United are the sort of team that, you know, this season's the sort of season where such random things happen that maybe Man United could win. I just don't see it, like, to be honest. Maybe these words are going to come back to haunt me, but I do feel that we're going to win. And I think it could be like a 3-1 game to Arsenal.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah. So my prediction was going to be even more kind of outlandish. I was thinking about this earlier. I was going to go with 4-0 or 4-1. So basically, I think we'll absolutely blitz them. I feel like it. Yeah. So I pretty much agree with everything you've said. And I think we're going to come out like we haven't really been starting games great in general recently. And I don't know, I don't feel like we don't seem to we don't often come out the traps and score an early goal and then get another early goal and kind of almost put the game to bed. I feel like that's what's going to happen. I'm kind of basing this just on what I'm hoping to happen as well, but I feel like that is what's going to happen on Saturday, where I think we're going to come out and Arteta must be saying to them, like, look, these guys, you saw what Liverpool done to them. Obviously, we're not Liverpool, but you know, they're almost like, if you can get an early goal, you can see like we were saying before, right? They're not really playing for the shirt anymore. A lot of these players know that they haven't really got a future at United, or are not expected to have a future at United. Their heads might drop and then they might just be there for the taking. And I'm kind of hoping that's how they come out from minute one. And I can see us getting a couple of early goals. And yeah, I think that could lead to like quite a big scoreline and a pretty big and you know, good win for us. And I think, like you say, yeah, like Saka's like probably the kind of occasion that some of these young players are going to relish. Like, they've really fed off the crowd this season, and as you say, the ground should be you know, rocking for Saturday on Saturday. And I think, you know, Saka, Smith Rowe, if he starts, Ødegaard, they're gonna really relish the atmosphere. And yeah, I'm going for a big win, big Arsenal win. I'll go 4-1.
Wicked. Well, Well, we think they're going to score. The bit that we agree on. We think they'll get a goal. Do you see it as a consolation goal, or like because
like
you know
Ronaldo?
Okay. Yeah.
I think it will be like 2-3, or like 3 or 4 up. I mean, this is a very like out there prediction, so it's, hopefully this doesn't get like clipped up and shared after Saturday, like egg on my face. But yeah,
I don't think we're big enough for people to do that yet. Anyway, look, I think we'll call it. We'll call it there. Like, honestly, I'm still buzzing after the Chelsea win. It was just, and I think one thing I'd like to sort of say about that is, sometimes in a season, it's really tiring sometimes to spend so much energy thinking about whether you like the manager or not, whether you like the players or not, whether we're going to make top 4 or not, whether we're going to buy this player or not. Like that whole thing gets really tiring. I think sometimes it doesn't really matter who your manager is, where you are in the league. It's kind of about moments. And, that Chelsea game yesterday, it doesn't really matter how this season ends. I think I'll always remember being part of a game like that. It's similar to it's similar to when we beat Leicester, I think, in the last kick of the game. Like, I'll always remember that game, despite the fact that we never won the league that season. I'll always remember that game, and some other games like that. And, it's just such a joy to be there. Very, very lucky to be there. And I think, if there's, again, it's for the moment. Sometimes that's what being a fan's all about, really, isn't it?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, don't want to drag out the end of the podcast, but I completely agree. Like, we've been pretty lucky, right, as Arsenal fans, over the years. Like, we kind of, I think me and you missed the kind of golden generation of like 90. Well, basically when Wenger arrived to when we essentially left Highbury, and we started going when we were able to, when we were old enough and probably could afford it, after we moved to the Emirates and we could start getting tickets. And despite that, there's still been some like you say, some amazing moments, and not even just necessarily matches, but moments and goals and experiences, and like cup finals and wins against Tottenham, and wins in other big games and European aways, all that kind of stuff that we've been able to do. So absolutely. You just got, sometimes you've got to step away from like Twitter and social media and a lot of people talking a lot of nonsense, and just let's just enjoy it, right? Yeah, that's what we're paying our money for. Support our team.
Exactly.
Enjoy it while we can.
Enjoy it, we will, and then we will do our best to enjoy Saturday. Hopefully it's going to be a win. And because it's an early kickoff, if we do win, it will make the afternoon of drinking so much more fun. I know that you've got plans on, so you can't get too drunk. Yeah,
I can, but I might not get in. Like, Mrs. might not let me in. Yeah, no, but no, I definitely have a couple, win or lose. But yes, looking forward to that.
So, look, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Thank you so much. Please, I should have said this at the start. Always forget. Please like and share and subscribe, whatever format that you prefer. We're on pretty much everything. So we really appreciate the support. And look, enjoy the end of your week. We hope you're all still buzzing after the victory against Chelsea. And hopefully we get a win against United, and the top 4 race will still be alive. Fingers crossed. Cool. Good night, all. Well, it's good night for us at the moment. Depends on what time you listen to this, obviously. Take it easy. See you later, Myz.
Cheers, mate. See ya.